Misty here. Thank you so much for joining me. In today's video, I am going to be sharing with you, this is just going to be like a word vomit video. I'm not even going to lie. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to hold it together. So, if you aren't interested in hearing about my health stuff, I will try to remember to put a timestamp up to talk, like where I start talking about what's really happening. But I figured I'd give some backstory first and do that while I put my makeup on. Okay. I may get a little weepy or emotional. It's not easy to talk about for a number of reasons, but the main reason is that it's a progressive thing. So there's no going backwards, getting better. And that's why I feel like I'm going to be emotional. Plus, I bet you guys understand. You ever get to that point like you need to cry but you can't cry? And you're like, okay, what am I going to read or what am I going to watch that's going to make me sob like a baby? But then you're like, I don't have time to sob for 3 hours. That's kind of where we are. Okay, I'm going to be doing a watermelon look. I'm going to be using the red from this palette because I'm still trying to hit pan in it. That's the last video I think you guys saw from me. Was 101 magical bends, and yeah, so I'm just gonna get started. Okay, let me start back at the beginning. So yeah, so this is gonna be a lot of health stuff, but I feel like I just want to get it all out there and let you guys know like everything that's going on. So I have had back issues basically all my life. I can remember being in 4th, 5th, 6th grade and already seeing a chiropractor on the regular because I was having neck and back issues. And as I've aged, they've gotten worse, of course. I have had osteoarthritis since I was little. And you guys know that I now have rheumatoid arthritis, which is an autoimmune disease. I developed that in, I want to say 2018 is when I really started showing symptoms, and spring of 2019 is when I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. And ironically, I made an appointment with the rheumatologist and ended up having to miss it because I ended up in the hospital, but we'll get there. So I've always had back issues. I've had several really bad falls throughout my life. I worked in fast food and like Long John Silver's, and even if you buy the special shoes that are supposed to be non-slip, that doesn't always happen, and I have fallen probably 10-15 times if I had to guess. So yeah, always had back problems. And so 2016 was like a dumpster fire. Starting in July of 2016, I had to have emergency gallbladder surgery. Oh, my eyes are primed with the MAC Painterly Pink Bond. I'm not going to really be talking about the makeup. I'm using all Project Pan stuff. So in July of 2016, I had to have emergency gallbladder surgery. In September of 2016, they found nodules on my thyroid. Like literally the day before we were leaving for a 3-week vacation. And then sometime in October of 2016, I woke up. I can remember sitting on the side of the bed. Rob and I were getting ready to go to our different jobs. And I was like, he's like, what's the matter? I was like, I don't know. I was like, but my arms feel really, really weak and tired. He's like, do you think you need your back adjusted? And I was like, no, this is different. Like, this isn't, because I had gone and seen a chiropractor again because I'd started losing sensation in my arms, and I was having the type of nerve pain where it feels like you're literally sticking your arms in fire. I think I've talked about that before. There's like several different kinds of nerve pain, but that's the nerve pain I was experiencing. So I said, no, I'll give it a couple of weeks, and then if I don't feel any better, I'll go to my doctor. So fast forward 2 weeks later, I went and saw my doctor, and he's like, what's going on? And my doctor and I have been together now almost 10 years. So he knows me well. I know him well. And I told him, I said, I don't know, but something's wrong. I said, I can't hold, like I said, I'm having a hard time holding up my toothbrush to brush my teeth, feeding myself with a fork. And I just knew immediately that he thought it was something serious. So he started running blood work, but all of it came back fine. And that's kind of true for some autoimmune diseases. Like nothing shows up in your blood work until it does. And some people have an autoimmune disease. Like it was probably 2020 or 2021. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis in September of 2019. And it was 2021, I want to say. I want to say it was last year before it finally showed up in the blood work. She's like, oh, there's your markers for rheumatoid arthritis. They finally showed up. So it can be really, really hard to get diagnosed. That's why it takes some people, like with MS, forever to get diagnosed. So, she called. His nurse always calls with results. She's like, he said you're fine. It's just neuropathy and blah, blah, blah. And I told her, I was like, this is not neuropathy. I said, I know what nerve pain feels like. I said, this isn't nerve pain. I said, this is weakness. So I left it alone. And then Christmas Day, I can remember trying to cook. And I couldn't hold a knife. Couldn't hold a potato. If my sister-in-law hadn't have been there that day, Rob probably would have had to feed me. He had to cut up my food. Because we're talking about that, like, so much weakness that I couldn't even hold a utensil. It was that kind of weakness. So, and then on January 3rd, I will never forget this date. I woke up and went to take a shower, and I had longer hair. Well, no, my hair was probably this long. And I put shampoo on the top of my head. And when I went, like, to pull my hands back up to lather, couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. I don't know how I managed to get dressed that day and go to work. But later that day, I went and cut my hair off. She's like, are you sure? And I'm like, you're going to have to. I said, I can't wash it. I can't take care of it. So, like, a week and a half later, I thought I was having a kidney. I thought I had a kidney infection. I was having that kind of pain in my lower back. If you've ever had a kidney infection, you know what I'm talking about. And so I went, made a doctor's appointment. My doctor, ironically, was off. He just had his cervical spine, his neck, operated on. So I saw someone in his practice, and she's like, she's like, it's not kidney pain. She's like, I'm pretty sure you have a pinched nerve. And I was like, what? So she's like, I'm going to refer you to pain management, and we'll go from there. So I had an MRI done. I went to pain management. Pain management was probably... So I saw her the middle of January. I didn't see pain management until like the 1st of March. And it had gotten to the point where I wasn't able to go into work every day. Because there were literally days I would wake up and I would not be able to get up, get dressed, anything. So, and I can remember that appointment was on a Wednesday, and I hadn't been able, like, that was the first day I'd been able to get up and get dressed. So I'd missed work, and it was just like, ugh. So I go see the pain management doctor, and I don't actually see the doctor in the beginning. I see a physician's assistant, I guess. And she was like, I'm going to go get the doctor. She said, because there's nothing on your MRI that would explain the symptoms you say you're having. And I said, okay. So he comes in and he's like, I'm pretty sure we're dealing with something neurological. And he said, I'm going to refer you to a neurologist. And I said, cool. So he referred me to a neurologist who was a quack. And I don't say that lightly. So I go see this neurologist. He walks in the room, doesn't say hi, starts poking me with needles, never says anything except that he thinks I have a neuromuscular junction. No, he didn't even say that. He said, I'm going to take some blood work. We'll have your results in 6 weeks. It was literally all he said to us. And that appointment was literally 10 minutes. And he supposedly did a nerve conduction study done. Nerve conduction study. I had one later down the road. Yeah, he didn't do a nerve conduction study. So I was like, okay. And I was just like, ugh. That's the thing I hate about going to new doctors. And that's one of the reasons why Rob had to end up going with me. But anyway, I'm jumping the gun. Jumping the shark. So I started physical therapy for pain management. They're like, do you think you could do physical therapy? I said, I could probably do aquatic therapy. I said, but I don't think there's any way on God's green earth I can do physical therapy, because by this point, not only was I having weakness in my arms, I was having weakness in my legs. And I mean, like, I would walk in from my car to my desk. I would sit in my desk for probably 4 hours before I would have enough strength to get up and walk 10 feet to go to the restroom. I mean, we're talking about that level of weakness. It was awful. So I started doing aquatic therapy, and after the first time I went, I called Rob and I was sobbing on the phone with him. He's like, "What's the matter?" I said, "I can't do this." I said, "I can't do this." I said, "My legs, like it took me an hour and 15 minutes after I got out of the pool to get dressed to go home. An hour and 15 minutes. And I was just like, I can't do this. Like, I cannot physically do this." So he's like, "What are you going to do?" And I said, I don't know. So I went home. I was like, "But I'm not going to be able to do anything tonight. Like, I can't cook any of it." He's like, "That's fine. We'll figure something out." So I'm supposed to go twice a week. So the next time I went, I changed into my bathing suit at work and then took a dress that I could just wear over it instead of having to get completely redressed. And I still had issues. I went one more time and then I was like, I can't. I was like, this is making shit worse. So by the end of the month, I finally had a follow-up appointment with pain management. And this was a whole different person. I want to say her name was, actually, I don't even remember what her name was. Clarice. It's not Clarice, but it felt like she was Clarice. God damn. So anyway, so I'm having this appointment with her and she's like, "How have you been doing?" And I said, "I have not been great." I said, I feel like physical therapy is making things worse. I said, "I feel like I am getting weaker by the minute." And I said, "I don't know what to do." She's like, "Well, I looked at your test results from the neurologist and he says you're fine." And I was just thinking, how is that even possible? So she's like, "We're going to schedule you for an injection in your neck and blah, blah, blah." I was like, "All right, that's fine, whatever." So I get home and it's about 5:30 and I notice I'm getting a call from a number that looks familiar, but I wasn't sure who it was. So I answered it and it was the woman I'd seen. And she said, "Hey, this is so-and-so from so-and-so's office." And I said, "Yes." And she's like, "I'm so sorry." She said, "I missed a page in your report from the neurologist." And she said, "Now, I don't want you to Google this." She's like, "But you have a neuromuscular junction disorder." And I said, "Okay." And she said, "Think along the lines of, MS, muscular dystrophy, ALS, multiple sclerosis." And I was just like frozen. And she said, "And that really explains why you've been having so many issues with physical therapy, and you can stop that and we'll figure something." Like, after that, I was just like, what? I'm going to put on this cream eyeshadow so these colors will pop. I was just like, what? So I literally hung up with her and just burst out in tears. I'm 44 years old. I grew up with Jerry Lewis Telethon on Labor Day weekends. We literally had 2 channels, so we watched that a lot. So I knew what all those things were. The AOLS Ice Bucket Challenge had just been a thing. Like, I knew what those words meant. I didn't need to Google it. So Rob walks in and he finds me sobbing in my craft room. And he's like, "What's the matter? What happened?" And I told him. He's like, "Fuck." I said, I can't go back to that doctor. I said, "I can't." So he's like, "Well, let's go back and see our doctor." So I went and saw my doctor again and I told him. He's like, "Well, I could have told you not to go to him." I was like, "Well, I'm sorry." I was like, I said I was following the recommendation of the pain management doctor. "I'm sorry, I didn't get your approval first." So he's like, "I'm going to send you to a different neurologist." So he sends me to a different neurologist. And the difference is night and day. This guy talks to me like we're there for 45 minutes. He really addresses the issues, talking about blah, blah, blah. And so he's like, "I'm going to order our nerve conduction study." He's like, "I want to do brain MRI. And at this point, the last MRI I had, I literally had a panic attack because I had to hold my arms up like this and I was dealing with extreme muscle weakness. So this was April. So he's like, I'm going to order all these, all this testing. and we'll go from there. And I was like, okay. So he didn't rule out ALS. Like, he didn't rule out anything. He's like, I want different. He's like, I have the test results. He's like, but I want my own. And I said, okay. So he didn't, rule it out. So I spent basically the month of April thinking I was going to die. I know you guys are Missy, that's fatalistic. No. ALS, you die. ALS, there's no cure for ALS. There's no cure for ALS. You literally die. A slow, painful death. There's no sugarcoating that. So I go for the nerve conduction study, and holy flippin' crap on a cracker. I have never experienced that much pain before in my life. It's like, oh my God. And no one had prepared. Like, I watched a video on YouTube, and the guy's like, and I was like, oh no, okay, that doesn't look too bad. So I get to the appointment, and the doctor is literally, if you've never seen what's done, there's a needle, a probe, literally this long. And it's thicker than a syringe. That gets inserted into the nerve, or where the nerve and the muscle meet, that junction, and then they shock it. Oh my God. Oh my God. And he did my whole upper body. And then the last one he did, it looked like a 9-volt battery right here, the pack that you plug it into. And he shocked me 10 times in a row, 10 times. So 100 shocks in a row. And by the time he was done, I was just like, I can't. He's like, okay, so we can, I can try to finish this, get your lower half done today if I have time. And he didn't have time. He's like, so you're going to have to come back tomorrow. I said, can I come medicated? And he said, yeah. So I did. So Rob went with me this time, because I told him, I was like, I can't do it. I'd taken an Uber from work the day before. I was like, I can't do this by myself. So he came with me, and it was torture for him. He said, I almost started crying. He's like, because you were in so much pain, I almost started crying. And he's like, and I couldn't do anything about it. I mean, it's just painful. So those results come back fine. It's like, you've got carpal tunnel, but you're fine. And I was just like, I'm not fine. What the fuck? So I go back to my neurologist, or my doctor, and I'm like, where are we going next? He's like, let's try a rheumatologist. And I said, okay. So I get to this rheumatologist, and oh my God, she is so flippin' unprofessional. Number one, her hygiene was questionable. Like, she had a huge rat's nest in the back of her hair. Like, she hadn't brushed her hair. She smelled as if she hadn't had a shower in a couple of days. And then she had the audacity to imply that there was nothing wrong with me. I just wanted to stay home and not work. So I went back after we saw her. I was like, this is a waste of time. So I go back and see my doctor, and he was like, what'd you think of that rheumatologist? And I said, I didn't have a whole lot to think about her. He's like, yeah. And he explained to me, and I was like, I knew I didn't like her for a reason. And I said, what are we going to do next? He's like, he said, I don't know. So Rob happened to get a flyer from his job, and there's an app called Second MD, the number 2 MD. And it's basically an app that gives you an opportunity to get a second opinion. So I reached out to them. They got all of my test results, or they were supposed to get all of my test results. And then they hook you up with an expert in the field. So they hook me up with a neurologist from Columbia University in New York. And I'm talking to her, and I'm irritated that that she doesn't have all of the test results. But she's like, from what you're telling me and from what I can kind of garner from all of this, she said, you need to go see a neurologist who subspecializes in neuromuscular junction disorders. And she's like, you need a single fiber done. I said, okay. So I went to my doctor, and I said, okay, the doctor said this, and this. So he ordered this, and this. And I Went and had that test done, and the neurologist I saw said, okay, it's either myasthenia or it's Lambert-Eaton. Lambert-Eaton is a similar disease, but the person almost always either has lung cancer or ends up with lung cancer. So, great. So I have to make an appointment before she'll give me the final results. But she said, ask your doctor to prescribe Mestinon, and if it works, then we're dealing with myasthenia. And she said, if it doesn't, we'll go back to the drawing board. So I said, okay. So I fill that prescription, my doctor fills it, and I go get it. And within a couple of hours, I notice a difference. And Rob's like, can you notice a difference? It's like, I think so. I said, but I don't want to jinx it. So this is in July. The first week of June, I reach out to my dean, because at the time I worked at a college, and I resigned. He came over and I was like, but he had already known, like I'd been keeping him abreast. He knew all the days I'd missed. Like he was my supervisor's supervisor. And I hated my supervisor, and anyway, that's a story for a different day. She had a tendency to try to throw me under the bus. So I didn't want to tell her. I didn't want to talk to her, period, at that point. So he came over and I said, hey, I need to talk to you. And he's like, okay. And I said, I'm submitting my resignation. And he just looked at me and I said, you know that I've been dealing with all the health problems. I said, I've used up all my sick time. I've used up all my vacation time. I said, I just can't. I literally cannot do my job. So I was just like, I said, I'm going to give you 2 months. So I can't remember if I left the 1st of August. I'm going to say the 1st of August or middle of August. And you guys, we didn't have a backup plan. There was no backup plan. There was, you know what I mean? It's like, but it was like at this point I couldn't walk. Like I was having trouble walking. And I told him, I said, I don't know if I'm going to be walking in a month or two. I said, I don't want, I don't want to lose my job because I can't, like, I was just like, I don't know if I'm going to be walking on October. I said, and I don't want to draw this out. I said, I want you guys to be able to find somebody before the new school year starts, blah, blah, blah. And he said, can I give you more money to stay? And I said, this has nothing to do with money. I said, this has everything to do with the fact that I literally cannot move. So he was like, I understand, blah, 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 blah. Whoop. So leave my job and get diagnosed with myasthenia gravis and go back and see my doctor. And because now I'm having issues with my neck. Really, Bonnie? So I'm talking to my doctor, and he's telling me all the symptoms he had with his neck. And I just look at him. He's like, what? I was like, I'm having the same exact symptoms with my neck. He's like, oh. He's like, well, let me refer you to my neurosurgeon. So I go see his neurosurgeon. And he's like, I have an answer for you. And I said, okay. He said, you're dealing with a disease called OPLL. And I said, okay. And he said, it's the ossification of the posterior longitudinal ligaments. And I said, okay. He said, basically, you have ligaments in your spinal canal that are basically turning to bone. And I said, okay. And he said, there's no treatment. He said, the only treatment for it is surgery. And my biggest concern was, I was like, did I do this to myself? Like, I've been fat my whole entire life. Like, was this self-inflicted? And he said, no. He's like, actually, this is genetic. And I was like, oh, great. Yay. So he's like, we can't do surgery yet. And he said, and I'm also not, comfortable you having surgery when you're this heavy. And I said, okay. And by this point, I'd already started keto. Like, I'd started keto in March of 2017, and I was already down like 50 pounds, maybe more than that. I don't remember. So I was like, okay. So I said, what's next? He was like, He's like, work on getting the weight off, and then once you've done that, come back and we'll reassess. I said, okay. So that was in September of 2017. So in July of 2017, I was diagnosed with myasthenia gravis, and in September, OPLL. So I'm cool, grooving, doing all right. Get to June of 2019. My brother and my niece were here, and we were about to get in the swimming pool, and our steps are a little deep, like steep. So I stepped down, and I can remember just looking at my brother, and he's like, what? I was like, I don't know, but I just did something to my back. So they helped me out of the, and I didn't even get in the pool. I literally stepped one step down, and I was like, I can't. So I went and got back in the house, sat on the couch, and by the next morning, I couldn't feel my right leg. And I was like, God. So I was like, well, give it a couple of days, see what happens. I call and rent a wheelchair because at this point, I literally could not move. I couldn't move. Get a wheelchair. Monday comes around, and I'm like, I can't do this. So I had Rob take me to the emergency room. They do an MRI, and they're like, you've ruptured a disc. Herniated disc, ruptured a disc. It's kind of all the same thing. And I was like, oh, great. And they're like, we're going to send you to a neurosurgeon. And this is a surgeon I'd already seen because I wanted a second opinion about the OPLL. And he was like, I can't. He's like, there's nothing I can do for you right now, blah, blah, blah. So they send me to him, and he's like, I told you I couldn't operate on you. And I was like, I know. I said, but they sent me here, and I don't know what else to do. He said, I want you to go to UT Southwestern. He's like, I'll call and let them know that you're on your way. He said, but you need to go to UT Southwestern. He's like, and so we went to UT Southwestern, and I went in through their emergency room and ended up at the Zelipsky, I think it's Zelipsky, hospital, and I was in the hospital for a couple of days. So the doctor, the first neurosurgeon comes in, and he's like, okay, he's like, we're going to give you a couple of days to do some physical therapy. He said, and then we'll plan on having surgery at the end of this week. And I said, okay, cool. The very next day, a different doctor comes in. He's like, okay, we're going to release you. And I was like, what about surgery? He's like, we're going to release you to do some physical therapy at home first. And I'd already had an appointment set up with a neurosurgeon at UT Southwestern because I asked because after seeing that other doctor, I was like, I didn't like him either. So I asked my neurologist to give me a referral, and it just so happened I already had an appointment planned with him for later that month. He said, keep that appointment with so-and-so for the end of the month, and then you guys can go from there. And I said, okay. I know this is a long story. This is why I said, if you don't want to hear it, it's probably not for you. Needless to say, I didn't have surgery. I went home, and so when I saw this neurosurgeon, it was mostly for my back at the moment, but it was also for my OPLL. He's like, so let's start with the OPLL. He's like, yes, you have it. He's like, and he pulled up the MRI, and at my neck, there's literally no space. There's no space. The spinal cord is like touching all of it. There's no space whatsoever, and that's not normal. And then it's also in my lower back, and he's, and with the lower back, he's like, you have several herniated discs. He's like, but I can't do all of them at the same time. He said, or you will lose, he's like, we'd have to put in a rod or something. And I said, okay. And so he's like, what? And he said, he said for the OPLL, he's like, you have to realize that this isn't going to be going into one level of your body. He said, this is me going to be opening you up from the base of your spine all the way to the top of your butt, your lowest spine. And it's going to be a whole entire back surgery. And he's like, and I don't think you want that right now. And I said, you're right. And after having my back surgery, hell to the yeah, is he right? So we leave there. I'm doing physical therapy. I have a follow-up with my regular doctor, and he's like, Misty, did you have surgery? And I was like, no. He's like, why not? And I said, he told me not to have it yet. He's like, Misty, he's like, you could literally walk out this door, step off a curb, and the same thing will happen again. He's like, you really need to think about having surgery. And I said, okay, fine. So, motherfucker jinxed me. I'm not even kidding you guys. At this time, I finally had a walker, it's a walker with a seat, because I was literally, I'd have to sit down after 2 minutes of walking around Costco or Walmart to get groceries, etc. So I was by myself, and I went to lift that walker and put it in the trunk, and I literally almost fell to my knees because my back went out. So went and saw the doctor, and he's like, all right, and he's like, let's get you scheduled for surgery. So I had a laminectomy in L something 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 in October of 2019, and it was the worst experience of my life. The only other surgery other than tonsillectomy when I was like 3 had been the gallbladder surgery. And when I woke up from gallbladder surgery, I didn't feel anything. Like, I couldn't even tell that I had had surgery. I couldn't stand up straight, but I couldn't like feel anything other than that. So I'm like, okay, but when I woke up from back surgery, it was the worst pain ever. And I can remember like saying something about it, and I can remember a nurse being snarky. I was like, did you really think you were going to wake up from back surgery and not be in pain? But I couldn't get them to understand that it wasn't where I thought the incision was going to be. It was higher, and it was like me laying on it was killing me. Well, come to find out, it was drains. It's like, well, no wonder. No one told me that they were like, I don't know. I felt ill prepared. Okay, where is that? Where's that? Oh, I forgot to put some stuff over here. So I was like, Lord have mercy on my soul. So I stayed in the hospital for 3 days, and after the second day, they took me off the pain medicine. They took me off the morphine, and I told the nurse, like, I couldn't get out of bed. I literally could not get out of bed. I couldn't feel my legs to get out of bed. And my CNA was awful and kept making a big deal about how she had other patients she had to see, blah, blah, blah. She couldn't just stay in there with me. And I finally just told her to get the fuck out. I was just, at that point, I was just over it. So the nurse comes in, and I said, you're gonna have to get me something else. And she said, Jake called in, it starts with a T. Toller something. Anyway, it's a pain pill with an anti-inflammatory. And you guys, I'm not even kidding. Within 15 minutes, I was up moving around. I was fine. So, but this was before I'd been diagnosed with the rheumatoid arthritis, I think. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe my timeline's off. But so he comes in the next day, and he's like, how are you feeling? I was like, I want to go home. I want to go home. I was like, I'm moving around. I'm doing okay. You guys have physical therapy scheduled to come. I was like, I want to go to my house. We get home. I sat on the couch, try to get up. I was like, I made a grievous error. So I think I got out on a Saturday. Sunday, the home health nurse comes to get me enrolled, and she's like, you're having, your physical therapist again. Because I told her, I was like, I think I made a mistake. Because they offered rehab center, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I was like, maybe I should take them up on that offer. I said, because I'm struggling. She's like, your physical therapist that you worked with will be here tomorrow. She's like, he knows you, knows your case, knows your ability levels. She said, talk to him, and then you guys can decide if that's what he thinks is the best course of action. And I said, okay. So he got here the next morning. I was okay. I had to order a second. They sent me home with the regular walker, like the regular gray walkers. They sent me home with a big one, but it wouldn't fit through our bathroom door, so I had to end up buying a smaller one. But moral of the story is, I got better. My incision did not. It kept opening, so I ended up in wound care. Blah 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 blah. So that was all of that, and then the pandemic hit in 2020, and I wasn't seeing anybody in person other than my rheumatologist. So I started having infusions in April of 2021. Yeah, for my rheumatoid arthritis, and then I started having an IVIG infusions in the fall with my neurologist. So this was all last year. So last August, I saw my neurologist in person for the first time since 2018. Did I see her? Maybe I saw her in January 2021. No, 2020. So this was the first time I'd seen her in over a year. Like, it would have been like 18 months or so. And she and I were talking, and I said, and she was like, you know, how's it working? And I said, I feel like I need something more. And she's like, let's try IVIG. And she, you know, she's like, you know, there's risk. It's a blood product. Blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay. She said, it's pretty invasive because it's literally an IV. And I was like, okay. So, I had my loading dose of that in November, and I saw her a week later. And in August, I think she told me she was retiring. So in November, I saw her, and she's like, your white blood count dropped drastically. She said, it's normal sometimes with the IVIG. She's like, but if it stays down this low, we'll have to try something different. And I'd already seen a hematologist because I'd been dealing with extra iron in my blood, and that no one could answer. So I'm like, okay, so I have my loading dose. You guys may remember me talking about it. It was 4 days, 4 5-hour days in a row of an IV. And it made me, it's immune globulin, it's antibodies or whatever. And it made me feel like absolute dog shit. Absolute dog shit. So, I did the loading dose, then I had a second dose in December, and then my third dose was scheduled for the 1st of January. And I've told this story before, so if you've heard it, I apologize. But on December 28th of 2021, around 4:30 p.m., my then neurologist, who was retiring, called and told me that she had misdiagnosed me in 2017. And basically, 4.5 years of my life, we'd been treating the wrong disease. I literally just started, you know, taking a blood product that comes with its own risk. And I was just like, what? Like, I couldn't comprehend what she was saying. And she was just so flippin' blasé about it. And I got off the phone with her, and I was just like, what the fuck? And my nurse was here. I was about to get, was I already getting an, maybe, yeah, no, he was here. I remember that, because I was just like, she literally just called to tell me she misdiagnosed me. And he was like, what? I was like, yeah. I was like, what? I literally had a panic attack. I'm like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, what is the next step? What am I supposed to do now? And he's like, I would call. So I called and got the runaround, and it was just huge. I was sobbing on the phone with the poor nurse of the neurologist that had inherited me, because she and I had already discussed it. She wanted me to see a neurologist that was, you know, skilled in myasthenia. We had this whole plan set up, and then that one phone call just kind of, just like all of it went away. So, I tried to get an earlier appointment with this new neurologist, and she said no. Basically wouldn't see me until I had testing done. So I had another single fiber nerve conduction study done. This one in my arm and also in my forehead. And it was awful. I think I may have mentioned that soon, because that was mentioned that as well. That was this past February. So, yeah. Anyway, I skipped last September. So last August, I started having issues with my lower back. I had nerve pain in my lower back. And I started having numbness in my legs. So there's several types of nerve pain. There's like pins and needles nerve pain. There's like fire nerve pain. Like you literally feel like you have some part of your body in a literal fire. And then there's kind of like a sharp kind of pinching, tugging kind of sensation. And that is what I started having. And that is the worst, because moving, you can literally feel the disc or whatever pinching down on the nerve. And it is awful. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. Like, worst enemy or not, nobody. Nobody deserves that. Nobody. So by day 4, I can't get out of bed. Like, I literally cannot get up. and I am only able to get up to try to go to the bathroom. So I called my pain management doctor, and I was like, I'm going to need something stronger. And she's like, why don't we go ahead and schedule you a rhizotomy? And I said, okay. Because I'd already had 2 facet injections in my lower back. And that's facet injections. They basically inject you with lidocaine. I think it's lidocaine. And to see if, if you get any kind of relief. And if you feel any kind of relief, for the most part, you can have what's called a rhizotomy. And that is where they basically go in and they burn the nerve to turn off the signal to the brain that it's in pain. So it doesn't stop the nerve pain per se. It just stops your brain from registering that you have nerve pain. And so I had that done last September, and it worked really well, like really, really well, until it didn't. And so I started having nerve pain in my lower back a couple of months ago. You guys might remember me talking about it. Sorry, I have to be right up in my face to put on concealer. And I was just like, oh my gosh. So I started having pain in my groin area, and I honestly just thought it was because I have to sleep. Ooh, I look crazy. I honestly thought it was because I've had to sleep on my right hand side since having back surgery. I can't sleep on my left for some reason, and so I'm either on my right side or flat on my back. There's no in between. And which one is the one with the cream? So I've been dealing with it. You guys know I've been dealing with it. I've talked about it. I've been dealing with it. And so finally I made the doctor's appointment with her, because it just got to be where I can't breathe. Can't breathe, can't function, can't walk. And honestly, the appointment was about, should I consider medical cannabis? That's really what that appointment was meant to be about. Because I was under the impression you could only have a rhizotomy like every few years. She's like, well, it's been almost a year since your rhizotomy. She's like, let's schedule another one. And I was like, that's the thing? She's like, yeah. She's like, and you had really good success with it. She's like, so let's go ahead and do that again. She's like, it helped. And she's like, most patients get between 6 and 9 months. She said, you can have one every 6 months. So let's give it a try. And I said, I am willing to do whatever. So she scheduled that, and I was like, I need something stronger than tramadol, because tramadol is just like taking a placebo. So she prescribed something stronger. I said, but I don't want something that I have to take every day. I said, I don't. And I said, I'd been doing fine. Like, I hadn't been having any issues. She's like, yeah, because I haven't seen you since October, and I haven't filled a pain pill prescription since then. I was like, I know, I was doing fine. I was like, I was doing fine until I wasn't doing fine. So anyway, she went ahead and bumped up my pain pill thing, and I have a rhizotomy. So she also ordered we're now to the point of the video. She ordered new images, and so of all 3 levels. So I have to have an MRI of my neck, my thoracic spine. So it's cervical, which is your neck, thoracic spine, which is like from your top of your shoulder blades to like mid back rib area, and then my lumbar spine, which is the rest of the way. And I was like, okay, cool. So we're gonna do all 3 levels, and then I'm having a rhizotomy. So next, anyway, so I was like, she's like, where do you want me to send it? And I said, send it to this place because they have an open MRI. Well, guess who doesn't do open MRIs there anymore? So if you're in the Dallas area, I called Baylor, and they don't have anybody in DFW. None of the Baylor in DFW has an open MRI. And I was like, shit, I'm claustrophobic. And the last time I had a MRI of my back done, I had a panic attack. And when the doctor said I had to have a brain MRI, and he told me how they did it, I asked for a sedative. I was like, there's no way, because they put a cage over your head. And I was like, there's no way in hell I can do that. So I called around yesterday, and I found a place that has a bigger machine. It's rated to a higher rate, so hopefully it'll be bigger. And then I called my pain management doctor to see if she would give me a sedative because it's going to be up to 3 hours flat on my back in an MRI machine, as they do all 3 levels of my back. So being the closeted masochist that I am, Rob is off next week. Rob literally took off next week because I had an infusion scheduled. And I was like, why don't you take off that week? You know, we can do a couple of things around the house, get out and about, you know, after my infusion. And he's like, cool. Well, now, Wednesday at 8:30 in the morning, I have my RA infusion. And at noon, I have a 3-hour MRI. On Friday, I have the rhizotomy. So, you guys know a pre-film. The 101 Magical Pans was the last thing I filmed. I don't have anything pre-filmed. I'm filming this on the 30th. I'm hoping it'll go up tonight. So I'm going to attempt to do some pre-filming for the next week or so. But if I disappear, now you know why. The rhizotomy I can't remember it being super painful. But if it was painful, it wasn't painful for very long. I think it's like more of like, because they put you to sleep. Like, I'll be asleep. And I'll be asleep. And then and I don't think they put you, did they put me deep? I don't think they put you deep. I actually don't remember. I was in so much pain when I finally went and had it done. I honestly don't remember. But I remember it being like just a few days and I was up and around. So, but I could be misremembering. I'm going to do my best. Okay, let me rephrase this. I'm going to try to pre-film. I'm going to try to pre-film, but I'm not going to stress about it. So if after a few days, because you guys know I post almost daily. I know you guys probably have Misty fatigue. I didn't mean to be a daily poster, but I'm doing so many projects that it can be helped. And it makes me so sad because I was having really good progress and I was wearing makeup and living my best life. And I have barely worn makeup this year or this month. I think this may be the 11th time I've worn any makeup. And I don't know what September is going to bring. So, yeah. So if I disappear, you know why I disappeared. It's because I am recovering. I'm literally more terrified of having that MRI done than I am about the rhizotomy. The last time I had an MRI done, I called and I was like, hey, do you have an open MRI? The name of the place is literally Open MRI. So if you're unfamiliar and you've never seen one or whatever, so an MRI machine, they get you in it, you have to lay completely still for about 45 minutes to an hour. They have some that are basically like a ring. And then they have what's called an open one, which is open on the sides. And it helps you, because like, especially someone my size, like my nose is literally, like this is me in the MRI machine, just like this. So when I had the one in 2017, like I said, I didn't realize that I just left straight for work. It was in February. It was cold outside. I wore jeans and a sweater. Don't ever do that because it gets hot. So I barely fit because it wasn't open. And the guy was like, we're going to try. He said, but the minute you feel like you need out, you let me know. And he was so good. Bless his heart. He was so good. He checked on me every 10 minutes. And he's like, we have 20 minutes left. Are you okay? I said, no. I am not okay. I said, but I just want to get this over with. I was like, I don't want to do this again. So he said, okay. He's like, what do you need? And I said, I'm going to sing Hamilton. I just need you to let me be. And you just do what you need to do. And, give me every 5 minutes. So I literally started with the first song on the Hamilton soundtrack and sang, I don't know how far I made it, but I literally sang to myself out loud the whole entire time and was just like trying not to lose my shit. Because again, tiny space, arms up above my head, hot. I mean, it was awful. And so I guess the girl heard me when I was complaining. She's like, I'm the one that told you that. It is open. And I swear the guy rolled his eyes. I was like, no, honey, it wasn't open. She's like, it's open on each end. That's not what that means. She's like, and when she found out, she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I was like, it's okay. I was like, it's an honest mistake. But I still don't understand why they're still called open MRI and they still don't have an open MRI machine. So that's the story. That's the story, Morning Glory. I'm not even done. How long have I been filming? An hour. Good job. Let's finish the face. So that is it. And so back to the OPLO. Part of my nerve pain stems from the OPLL. Again, calcifying ligaments in the spinal canal, squeezing on a spinal cord, squeezing on nerves, that run through it. But I also have like 3 or 4 bulging discs, right? I told you I had a few in a row, and he was like, I can't deal with all of them at the same time. And so it's not been easy. It's not been easy. And so the pain just gets worse. And again, any little movement, I turn the wrong way, cough the wrong way. When I cough or when I sneeze, I can feel it pulling on that nerve in my thoracic spine area, which is right around my rib cage, right around my lungs. I mean, I went to the emergency room a few years ago because I thought I had pleurisy because I could not breathe. And the doctor was like, this is a pinched nerve. And I was like, God damn, I have to have a pinched nerve everywhere. I can remember having sciatica down my left leg. And I literally thought I was going to have to call 911 to come get me to take me to the hospital. Rob was at work because it was like I feel like I've said I was sobbing 100 times, but I was literally losing my shit because it hurt so much. Hey. So anywho, rude. I don't know what that noise is. They've been doing it for forever. Maybe it's a chainsaw. I apologize if you can hear that and if it's super loud. So anyway, that was all that to say. All of that to say that it's been rough. It's been really hard. And anyway, where I was going with this disease is progressive. It's progressive. And the whole reason why we had our master bathroom redone, number one, it needed it. You guys will see once I finally get the thing edited and uploaded, you'll see that it was just basically, it needed to be redone. It was just not meant for us. We knew when we bought this house 11 years ago, like we moved in 11 years ago, about 2 days ago, Facebook told me, because I have to tell everybody on Facebook everything. Anywho, what was I saying? This is what happens when I lose my train of thought. What was I saying? Misty brain. Progressive. It's progressive. So it's not... Oh, so we knew we would have to have our bathroom redone at some point, but it was within the last 2 years that we realized that we were going to have to make it wheelchair accessible, because there is a very real chance that I will end up wheelchair bound. This disease can lead to someone being quadriplegic, which is where you can't move at all. And yeah, and it's really hard not to get to kind of be fatalistic about it. I think that's where I've been struggling the most the past few weeks, is like, I was like, I just had a rhizotomy done a year ago, and now all of a sudden I'm having all this pain again. And knowing that there's no fix, like there's no fixing it. Even surgery has the risk of putting me in a wheelchair. You know what I mean? Like there's no good that can come out of this. Like there's just nothing. And I'm 44 years old. And the thought of having to deal with this much pain for the rest of my life is exhausting. So that's been part of my problem, is I've been in my head and I am just like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this knowledge that this isn't going to get any better? You know what I mean? Like, what am I supposed to do with this knowledge that I'm not getting any better? And if anything, I'm going to get worse. And I just get in my head and it's hard to come out of it. Those of you with chronic illness or chronic disease probably know exactly what I mean. It's like there are days where I'm fine. I was fine for months. But it's been 6 weeks of hell on earth for my body, for my mood, like for all of it. And yesterday, having her validate, because she was like, Misty, she's like, there's no reason for you to be in this much pain. She's like, you should have came in sooner. She's like, call me. I will give you a higher prescription. She's like, well, try this prescription. And it's like Tylenol coating. It's like nothing crazy. She's like, but if that doesn't work, we'll bump it up a little bit. She's like, don't allow yourself to be in this much pain. She's like, there's no reason for it. She's like, I know you're, because I told her, I was like, I was ready to ask Rob to take me to the emergency room just so I could have some pain medicine. And I said, and I don't want to be that person. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just don't want to be, I don't want to be someone that gets flagged. You know what I mean? I don't know. There's a whole, like, that's a whole other wormhole. I don't know what else to call it other than that, because it's like, I don't know. I've just done my best to stay off pain medicine. I only take it when I need to. I live with lidocaine patches, which help. They don't like completely stop it, but they do help. And I rely on them an awful lot. But at the same time, it's like it gets to a point where I literally can't function. And it just sends, it's a slippery slope. It's such a slippery slope. And it's just hard. And I don't know, I think I've mentioned it before, maybe I haven't. When I get that way, I tend to become a turtle. Like, I close off. So that's what's going on. I'm having an existential crisis. I'm having a midlife crisis. Who knows if 44 is midlife, but I've just been, and nobody understands. That's the thing. Like, nobody understands unless you live it. No one understands. Just do this, just take that, just do that. And it's like, I just smile and go on about my life. Like, they had a going away party, I guess, for me at work. You guys, someone from a fucking MLM who I'd never met in my life came up to me and she was like, I heard about what's going on and I'm so sorry. Do you want information about Arbonne? And I was just like, no. I was just so completely flabbergasted that she had the audacity to walk up to me, having never met me. And they didn't say exactly what was going on with me. They just said that I was having to leave for medical reasons. And I was just like, so that's the story, Morning Glory. It's just been. It's just been. Okay, I'm going to go change my shirt and I'll come back and we will finish off the look and I will end this rambly mess of a video. Oh, hi. Guess you forgot to come back and end the video. I can't believe I completely forgot to do an ending. So, but that's it, guys. I know it was a long one. I know it was a lot, but I just felt like I should just share everything with you and let you know that I may not be around for a while. Like I said, I am going to try to pre-film, but if I don't, I'm not going to stress about it. And hopefully things turn out okay and I turn out all right and I can get back to normal. So thank you so much for joining me today. Be sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way if I do disappear, you'll know when I come back. If you haven't already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Misty Pants. I hope you have a good day, night, weekend, wherever you are. I love your faces and I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.